For the first time under Jim Harbaugh, the Michigan Wolverines are 10-0 as we welcome in Anthony Bellino. You see him every morning right here on BCSN as part of the X's and Bros show. Anthony, how's it going?
All is well, Mark. You know, it's just another weekend, another victory week for us here as we celebrate that pounding of Nebraska. You know what they say? You can't go 11-0 if you don't go 10-0 first. That's exactly where we're at today.
We'll get to what the Wolverines will need to do to get to 11-0 in a moment, but let's talk a little about that 10th victory. We've seemingly seen this script play out a few times for the Wolverines. They start off fast, they score the first drive, they wear teams down, and by the end of the day, it's a blowout Michigan performance.
Yeah, and you know, when the college football playoff rankings, I mean, the AP has Michigan at 3, the college football playoff rankings at 3, and the reason they can't jump Ohio State is because it is such a monotonous offense, right? I mean, they just run the ball right at you. This past week against Nebraska, it was Blake Corum, and Blake was running wild, 28 carries, 162 yards. Nothing crazy, though, as long as carry was 12 yards. He didn't get that big breakaway run, if you will. He did have a touchdown on the ground. That was great. But it's just the same old ground and pound that Michigan's used all season long. I do like the fact that they have attempted some more passes down the field. JJ wasn't exactly stellar in the completion percentage department, 8 of 17 for $129 and 2 touchdowns. But all in all, I mean, the weather was atrocious, Mark. I'm lucky I even survived. I mean, you know, it's snow. It was inclement weather, right? It was like a foggy, snowy sort of haze over the field. It was like 30 degrees. The visibility was so low, they actually canceled. We were going to have some parachute droppers deliver the game ball. That wasn't going to work out because the visibility was so low. So it was a cold day, and that's the good news about being able to run the football. I know it's monotonous. I know it's just as boring as everybody on your screen is probably nodding their head going, yeah, it's not exactly exciting. But you know what it does? It travels. And running the football not only travels, it plays in all weather conditions. So when it does get a little rainy, when it does get a little windy, when things are a little bit cold and your hands are a little bit stiff and your receivers they're having a hard time getting out of their breaks and their hands are a little cold and they're not doing a great job of catching the football, you can always turn around and hand it off. The offensive line, speaking to some of those guys, they love to get off the ball. They love run blocking. And that's just what they do. I mean, they're very proficient at it. It's worked up into this point. You win a game 34-3. All you can really do is nitpick because at the end of the day, you're 10-0. There's a lot of programs in the country that wish they were there. In fact, I think there's 127 teams in the country that wish that they were 10-0 at this point. And so you just be happy with the results that you got. And you keep on moving towards next week.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that offensive line. The fact of the matter is this is an O-line that won the Joe Moore Award last year as the best O-line in the country, and they might be even better this year despite the fact that they've had to move some parts around. They've not been completely healthy the entire season, yet all they do is block, and move the ball down the field.
And they take great pride in being able to run the football. All of them do. We had a Wolverines Plus conference call a few weeks back, and they just talked about that's why they came to Michigan. They came to Michigan because they enjoy run blocking, being able to pull, being able to have a back in the backfield that if you just stay on your man, he's going to make something out of it. Makes your life as an offensive lineman. Talking to Lomas Brown with Barry Sanders behind him. Lomas just said, "Stay on your block. Barry will find the right direction to go." And these guys really feel the same about Donovan Edwards and especially Blake Corum as well. I mean, we've seen him time and time again make something out of absolutely nothing. He keeps those small leg. I say small, but he's small in stature. The legs are like the size of tree trunks, but he keeps his legs churning. And he's always looking for those extra yards. He's a tough runner, and I think that when you're able to run the football, the one thing you make defenses do, in a lot of pass happy offenses, defenses don't have to account for taking on a run block and tackling. Right? Those are the two lost arts, if you will, of defense. And when a team is going to run the football right at you every single play, and you basically know it's coming, the question is can you stop it? It's not like Michigan gets overly creative. Sure, they've thrown in some wrinkles here and there, but nothing where you're just like, oh my goodness, got to earmark that one, for 7 weeks down the road. It's that physical and like deployment of your own guys against their team. We're going to force you to play blocks. We're going to force you to tackle. And if you don't do that, you're not going to be very successful.
That O-line is a strength, and they need it to be a strength because we found out this week Cade McNamara done for the season after he underwent knee surgery a week ago. So you've got J.J. McCarthy, who's played very well all season long, but you don't have a whole lot of depth at that quarterback position. So keeping J.J. healthy, I think, is job 1A for the next couple of weeks.
I thought that this word was going to get out way beforehand. I mean, Cade, he's been walking around on the sidelines with a knee brace under sweatpants. It's not like it's been hidden or anything. You could see the brace, and it's like, well, I don't know exactly why you'd wear a brace like that if something wasn't out of sorts. They do elect for surgery, so I guess it's the best move. And to be honest with you, you didn't want to have to go to Cade if JJ got hurt, although it is always great to have a serviceable backup. That's one of the things we talked about early on when the conversation was all about quarterback. We talked so much about quarterback and who JJ or Cade, and all we're going to do is hand it off 30 times a game anyways. But really, if JJ McCarthy goes down, I mean, look, I haven't seen too much of Davis Warren just yet. He was 2 for 3 for 19 yards last week. I don't want to put it past him. We've seen quarterbacks come in. Cardale Jones, the first name that comes to my mind. Backup quarterback comes in, wins a few games, few important ones. So depth at the quarterback's position, not exactly what it was to begin this season, but at the end of the day, you want to roll forward. You want to go with JJ. I think he had some opportunities there that really you'd like to see him kind of tuck the ball and take off a little bit. I'm not big on the quarterback run game. I'm not a big read option guy because I think you got to limit the hits on the quarterback. But when you have an avenue, you learn how to slide. You take care of your body. You take care of the ball. Everything else kind of works itself out.
One thing the offensive players talk about quite a bit this week for the Michigan Wolverines is how much going up against the Michigan defense in practice has helped this Wolverine offense in games because let's face it, the defense they face on Saturdays is not as good as the defense they face Monday through Friday, as that Wolverine defense leading the nation in scoring defense, leading the nation in several statistical categories. This no-name, no-star defense is really good.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's defense right now is top 3 nationally in scoring D, total D, first downs allowed, yards per play allowed, rushing defense, yards per carry allowed, yards per pass attempt allowed, passer rating, plays of 10 plus yards allowed, passing touchdowns allowed, and rushing touchdowns allowed. Basically, every defensive category the really surprising thing for me, Mark, is a lot of times you hear like coach speak or players speak, the sum is greater than the individual parts, things of that nature you'd expect guys to say, but they really were telling the truth. I mean, they said, hey, we might not have the names, we might not have the individual numbers that are going to jump off the screen, but collectively as a unit, we will be able to get this done. And I was a little skeptical at first, but Mozzie Smith and Mike Morris, I mean, those two guys, those are NFL caliber players. I mean, Mozzie Smith, his numbers don't really jump out at you because the guy's taking on, guard, center, guard every single play. I mean, it's double and triple teams nonstop. And you get Morris coming off the edge. You feel pretty good about what you have there athletically. Guys like Junior Colson. If the front four are eating up the blocks, the linebackers should be able to roam free. And I think that's where, the Wolverines have done a really good job this year is a linebacker play as well. Those guys have been great in coverage. They've been great tackling. They've been great, being able to find the running backs and allowing their defensive line to eat up some blocks so they can go make some plays.
Yeah, Chris Jenkins talked about how much he sees the respect other teams have for Mozzie Smith and the fact that everybody runs away from Mozzie. And that's how they can tell the impact that Mozzie Smith has.
See the size of that guy? You'd be running away from him too. Are you kidding me? The guy's a monster out there.
He in the best way possible we can use the word, he is a freak, and he is freaky good for the Michigan Wolverines. Another topic of conversation on Monday with the Wolverines was there's a lot of talk about the culture change. And guys went back that 2020 season and basically said that 2-4 is not an acceptable season for Michigan. There's a lot of different things that went into the culture change, but one of the recurring themes was we understand now that if we have team success, that will lead to individual success, not the opposite way around.
I mean, that's football is the ultimate team game, right? And a lot of people say, they talk about the perimeter weapons, right? Because we're so addicted to like fantasy football. We're statistic machines. We love it. I just rattled off like 800 defensive statistics, but those were all team statistics, right? Not individual. I didn't give you individual tackles for loss or interceptions or sacks or anything of that nature. I gave you all team related numbers. And when your team does have success, you as an individual, you will have success as well. If you're playing at the University of Michigan, there was a lot of questions why Yabioki would go to the University of Michigan versus, why would he go there when they already had defensive line depth? And it's like, okay, do you want to go to Michigan or do you want to perhaps go to Minnesota? Sure, you're playing in the same conference, but you're getting some of the best coaching available. No, this isn't a Michigan-Ohio State thing. You go to Ohio State, you're going to get the best coaching available too. But if you go to a program like that, it's about getting the best coaches. It's about being seen on the national stage every single week. It's about playing in those environments that have sold out crowds of 110,000+, right? That's why you decide to go to Michigan. Then once you get there, your responsibility is very simple. New England Patriots, do your job. I mean, outside of Randy Moss, I mean, a lot of people point to Julian Edelman, right? Get some action, but there really wasn't that big star outside of Tom Brady, right? But they continued to win. They continued to win. And then guys became stars. You saw guys like, I don't want to use the other tight end, so I'll go with Rob Gronkowski, for example. You see guys like Luke Schoonmaker, his opportunities are becoming available because we all know Eric All is very good, but Eric All is injured. So Luke Schoonmaker steps in. He's going to get opportunities. Roman Wilson, Ronnie Bell, this wide receiver core, Cornelius Johnson. Sure, they don't get all the targets that I'm sure that they would like. And guys, can look around at some other guys across the country getting 8, 9, 10 targets a game. That's all fine and dandy, but are you 10-0? The answer, I mean, outside of Ohio State, they're probably not, right? So do you want to win? Do you want to play meaningful games, or do you want to, have 10 targets and have 75 yards and 2 touchdowns? That's the question. I mean, Jay, you think that Reed and Naylor wouldn't have traded spots immediately to go play for an undefeated Michigan team versus the mess that they have in East Lansing right now? I mean, come on.
Excellent point. As the Wolverines will wrap up the home schedule on Saturday, welcoming Illinois, and Brett Bielema into town. This is a Fighting Illini team that a couple of weeks ago looked like it was the class of the West, and now the Big Ten West is as wide open as the old West was 160-some years ago. As Illinois lost last week, a little bit banged up. Chase Brown, they're optimistic that their star running back Chase Brown will be ready to go, and I think Michigan's looking forward to having a strong rushing attack to go up against a strong rush defense.
Yeah, Illinois, just the Illini right now, they're not showing much of a fight. Purdue last week, Michigan State the week before. Those are games that if you're the real deal, you don't drop those games, right? That just cannot happen. The Big Ten West is an absolute disaster. You're right. It's as open as the Wild West was 160 years ago. Just go wherever you want, plant your flag. I'm sure it'll be fine, right? I mean, that's the Big Ten West right now. It's an absolute disaster. The East is the water carrier for the conference, and it'll be Michigan State, and it's unfortunate, or Michigan and Ohio State, I should say. It's unfortunate that these two teams can't meet for the Big Ten championship game, because whichever team comes out of that and faces the team from the West, it's going to be very much like last year's Michigan-Iowa result. It's going to be a complete and utter blowout. The Illini, I'm just going to call it. They don't stand a chance this week. They just don't have it. They really don't. I really appreciate Chase Brown. He's a wonderful running back. It makes you wonder what a guy like with his talent, his athleticism, his ability, his work ethic, what he would do behind an offensive line like Michigan. But I just think Michigan's offensive line is too good for Illinois' defense, and the defensive line for Michigan is just going to overwhelm the Illini front five. It could be disastrous for Illinois this week, and it's the last one before the big one.
Yeah, and expect an emotional Saturday for the Wolverines. A large group of seniors will be honored, as this is a senior.
43 seniors, Mark. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I had to cut you off there. 43 seniors. You know how long that senior day is going to take? I mean, people like me, this is what we got to worry about on a game day, Mark. The people were booing me last week because of our jugs machine wasn't any good. We couldn't fire off the student catch a punt, and one kid cheated in a 100-yard dash. I was getting booed by my own people. 43 seniors. It's going to take like 5 hours to get through this.
And this senior class has been instrumental in turning around this Michigan program.
Got to set the tone, right? It takes great senior leadership, because when you have guys that are in the program, especially what they went through in 2020 and the disappointment that was the rally and the rebound of 2021, and then your opportunity to really cement yourself in Michigan history here in 2022. That kind of leadership, everybody else is looking to it. It's one thing to have a coach hold you accountable. It's another thing when you have to answer to one of your peers or one of the upperclassmen, when they are the ones telling you, this is not acceptable. This is the way that we operate here. This is why you came here. I think that that's all very important. I think that there isn't a lot of portal activity. I think that makes that's kind of a sign as well. Guys come, they stay, they understand it's going to take a while, right? It's just that's just the way that it is. If you're really good, you'll get on the field. But if not, you're going to have to earn your right to play and to wear that winged helmet. I think that speaks volumes to what this coaching staff is trying to build. And I'll use a line from Tom Izzo, right? Our friends in East Lansing. Tom Izzo always talks about how he wants player coach teams, right? He wants his own players to get after their teammate before they even come see him, because it makes his life a whole lot easier. So if you're watching Michigan State basketball at all this season, watch for the way the upperclassmen get in the ear of the younger guys, trying to explain to them what exactly you're doing wrong. Why is coach calling a timeout? I'm going to tell you why right now. This is what you need to fix, because when you have player-led programs, especially players that are high character guys, it bodes well for the rest, because they're setting the example for the juniors, the sophomores, the freshmen, and for those kids that are roaming around on the sidelines trying to figure out where they want to go to school, in the recruiting process, taking their visits. It means a lot. And I think that it's very important, and it's great to see that Michigan is back to where they are right now. That is, top 10 nationally. They're undefeated. They're rolling over teams. Like this is the football that Jim Harbaugh came to play. It just took a while to get to this point. But I mean, what would you rather have? Easy Mac in the microwave in a minute and a half, or would you like me to make you a prime rib dinner? It's just going to take a little longer, Mark.
And for those 43 seniors, Saturday will be the last time they'll get a run out under the Go Blue banner. I want to thank our guest tonight on College Ball Weekly, Anthony Bellino. You see him every morning here on BCSN at the X's and Bros Show. Anthony, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. I'll be frozen to the bone Saturday on the sidelines at noon.